Imagine walking into a phone store in 2007. Every phone looked almost the same. Tiny screens, plastic buttons, boring designs. It felt like technology had hit a wall. Then, one man walked onto a stage wearing a black turtleneck and blue jeans. Steve Jobs smiled and said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." The audience exploded with applause. That single moment changed the smartphone industry forever. But here's the twist. The biggest challenge to Apple didn't come from a small startup. It came from a company that was already making TVs, refrigerators, washing machines, and yes, even the chips inside Apple's own iPhone. That company was Samsung. This isn't just the story of two brands. It's the story of pride, billions of dollars, secret meetings, courtroom battles, and one of the greatest business rivalries in history. So grab your popcorn, because this story has everything except superheroes. Although if smartphones had capes, they would probably fight over who gets the fastest charger. Let's begin. Long before smartphones ruled the world, Samsung was already a manufacturing giant. Founded in South Korea in 1938, the company started as a trading business and slowly expanded into electronics, home appliances, and semiconductors. By the early 2000s, Samsung had become one of the world's largest technology manufacturers. Meanwhile, Apple was living a completely different story. The company had already shocked the world with the iPod, turning music into a pocket-sized experience. Millions of people loved Apple's simple designs and smooth software. But Steve Jobs wanted something much bigger. He believed people shouldn't carry 3 separate devices: a phone, a music player, and an internet device. Why not combine all 3 into one? That idea sounded crazy. Many experts laughed. Some even said nobody would ever want a phone without a physical keyboard. Well, history has a funny habit of embarrassing experts. In January 2007, Apple introduced the first iPhone. The device looked futuristic, a large touchscreen, almost no buttons, a smooth interface that felt like magic. Customers lined up outside Apple stores for hours, some even camping overnight just to buy one. Suddenly, every phone company realized one terrifying truth. The rules of the game had changed, and somewhere inside Samsung's headquarters, executives were watching very carefully because they knew one thing. If they didn't react quickly, Apple wouldn't just win the race. It might finish the race before everyone else even tied their shoes. Inside Samsung's headquarters, the mood had completely changed. The first iPhone wasn't just another product. It was a warning. Samsung's executives knew they had 2 choices: ignore Apple or chase it with everything they had. Luckily for Samsung, they had one secret advantage. They didn't just build smartphones. They built the technology inside them. Samsung was already one of the world's biggest manufacturers of displays, memory chips, and processors. In fact, some of the parts inside Apple's iPhones were actually made by Samsung. Yes. Imagine baking a cake for your biggest competitor. Business can be strange sometimes. Samsung moved fast. Engineers worked day and night. Design teams studied customer feedback. Every new Galaxy phone became better than the last. Bigger screens, sharper displays, better cameras, expandable storage, features many customers wished Apple had. Then came the Galaxy S series. It wasn't just another smartphone. It was Samsung's declaration that they were ready to fight, and people noticed. Millions of customers who wanted larger displays and more customization started buying Galaxy phones. For the first time, Apple had a serious rival, but competition soon turned into something much bigger. One morning, headlines around the world exploded. Apple accused Samsung of copying the iPhone's design. The company claimed Samsung had borrowed too many ideas, from the phone's appearance to parts of its software. Samsung wasn't about to stay quiet. They fired back with their own legal claims. Suddenly, the battle wasn't only happening in stores. It had entered the courtroom. Lawyers replaced marketers. Judges replaced reviewers. And instead of comparing camera quality, People were comparing legal documents that were thicker than some college textbooks. The media loved every second of it. News channels covered every update. Technology fans argued endlessly online. Some supported Apple. Others stood firmly behind Samsung. The smartphone war had become global. But while everyone was focused on the lawsuits, both companies were secretly preparing something even more important: their next generation of smartphones. Because in technology, yesterday's winner can become tomorrow's history. And neither Apple nor Samsung had any intention of losing. While the world was busy watching the courtroom drama, Apple and Samsung were fighting an even bigger battle behind the scenes. It wasn't about lawyers anymore. It was about innovation. Every single year, both companies raced to release something better than before: a faster processor, a brighter display, a smarter camera, a longer-lasting battery. Customers became the real winners because each company pushed the other to improve. Then came one of the biggest moments in tech history. In 2012, a U.S. jury ruled that Samsung had infringed on several Apple patents, and Apple was initially awarded over $1 billion in damages. Over the following years, appeals and later decisions reduced the amount. But the legal fight continued for years before both companies eventually settled many of their disputes. Most people thought the battle was over. It wasn't. Samsung kept investing billions of dollars into research and development. Every year, the Galaxy lineup became stronger. The company introduced larger OLED displays, powerful cameras, water resistance, stylus support, with the Note series, and later foldable phones that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Apple, however, wasn't standing still either. The iPhone continued breaking sales records. Its tight integration of hardware and software, long software support, and strong ecosystem kept millions of loyal customers coming back year after year. The rivalry only became more intense. In many years, Samsung led the world in the total number of smartphones shipped. Apple, on the other hand, often dominated the premium smartphone market and generated enormous profits. So, did Samsung really defeat Apple? The answer depends on how you measure success. If you look at worldwide smartphone shipments, Samsung has frequently been number one. Like if you look at premium brand loyalty and profits, Apple has remained one of the strongest companies on earth. The truth is, neither company completely destroyed the other. Instead, they forced each other to become better. Without Samsung, Apple might not have innovated as quickly. Without Apple, Samsung might never have pushed itself to create some of its most successful products. Sometimes your biggest competitor becomes your biggest motivation. And that's the real lesson behind this billion-dollar rivalry. The next time you see someone holding an iPhone while another person proudly uses a Galaxy, remember, you're not just looking at two smartphones. You're looking at the result of one of the greatest business battles in modern history. And who knows? The next chapter of this story might already be in someone's pocket. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Empire Files, and tell us in the comments, Team Apple or Team Samsung?